So here's two people. Here's two people that are here for the recording. So both of them are recording it on their phones, their phones, whatever. Okay, so we are going to do a presentation. Okay, on the TV here on Obamacare and looking at it from a theoretical approach with sociology. And the approach I chose was social conflict theory. So before I get into the theory, I'm going to explain a little bit more about Obamacare. Okay? So first off is, what is Obamacare? Everyone's heard the phrase. A lot of people know what it is, and it has caused a lot of social issues. People usually either love it or hate it. It's a complicated healthcare law. It's over 2,000 pages. And that is just the law itself. There's a lot more that goes along with it. The main reason for the law is to have all Americans have health care. Only 7% of Americans at this point in time do not have health care. So for the other 93%, they shouldn't technically have to worry about Obamacare. It shouldn't affect them. But we'll get more to that in a second. So it should only be really pertinent to that 7%. Okay? Now Obamacare, a little bit more the nitty-gritty of it. It's not real technical. There's no denial for pre-existing conditions. That's Obamacare and all health insurance. So this law says that no insurance can deny you because of a pre-existing condition. Now with that doesn't mean that your rates won't go through the roof if you have a pre-existing condition, but it's just saying that if you come in, they can't deny your condition. So, it also says coverage is available through an exchange. So if you're able to purchase, insurance through this exchange if your current employer doesn't provide insurance or if it's unaffordable. But if you do have the ability to buy from your employer at an affordable rate, then you won't get a subsidy for that exchange. So either way, there's a way to purchase health care. And that's with the Obamacare law. Alright? Now with Obamacare, it also states that there's penalties for Americans that don't cover health insurance. That's why the goal of having all Americans covered, there's a fine if you don't have it. So this first year, it's whichever's greater, 1% of your income, your annual income, or $95. So if you make $30,000 a year, you're looking at $300 or so, which would be your actual, what you should be paying for your fine, or $95, whichever one's greater. So every year this fine will increase over time. So this is just the first year. Obamacare opposition. So this actually came from a congressman. A lot of these issues of why people don't like Obamacare came from an actual congressman. His name is mentioned in the citation page on here. But there's a lot of people that don't like it. Obamacare, in general, it sounds nice that all Americans get covered. There's no pre-existing condition clauses or anything. But there's a lot of things that go with it. And that's why it's such a social issue. Hours are cut for workers at 30 hours for part-time. So the law states that any business, if you have workers, say Walmart has workers there, and some of them were at 40 hours, well, they were mandated to provide insurance for them. Well, if they cut their hours down to 30 hours per week, they now don't have to provide insurance for them, but those employees still have to find insurance on their own, and now they have even less wages because they have less hours per week. So that's one reason why they dislike it, that people aren't getting the hours they need because of this mandate to businesses. No new hiring from businesses. If you have more than 50 employees in your business, you are required to provide health insurance. Now companies look at it and go, well, is it worth expanding over one more individual or even 10 more if we're required to take our money and put it into an insurance and all the above? And for many smaller businesses, it's not. Those businesses could turn into huge, huge places for people to actually have, insurances and good jobs. But if they're going to stop at 50, then we may never know. Current health insurance is being lost by many. We'll talk about that a little bit more. But basically, Obamacare, because of insurance regulations and stuff and requirements that cover more things, and the costs being driven up because of that, people are losing their insurance because of that. New taxes are destroying jobs and hurting the economy. Of course, that's something we'll talk about a little bit more. Obamacare, here's a little bit more to go with it. $2.6 trillion is what it's going to supposedly cost in the first year. Increased insurance premiums. Once again, that's something we'll go a little bit more into detail, but when your insurance is required to pay for more and there's no clauses on pre-existing conditions, your premiums are going to go up. Regardless if you have pre-existing condition, if they now cover 5 extra people, well, not 5, but if they cover so many more people that have conditions that they know they're going to have to pay for that they normally didn't, your premiums go up also, even if you've never claimed. First Amendment violation. A lot of companies are really against it because a lot of companies are founded on religious Christian beliefs that all life is valuable. And with Obamacare, it requires them to provide insurance that provides contraceptives. And some of those contraceptives are considered abortion-type medicine that kills an embryo once it's been fertilized. So a lot of companies are actually fighting this and being fined for this. So that's a big issue with some companies and a lot of Americans. Medicare cuts. Unfortunately, the money has to come from somewhere, and they're cutting Medicare, they're cutting medicine, they're cutting a lot of things in order to make room for Obamacare. Social conflict theory. Alright, so this is the theory that we're focusing on when we look at Obamacare, how this relates to Obamacare. Social conflict theory is a theory within sociology that states it's a perspective of looking at how things run within society. So this one looks at different social classes, and basically it states with all of this is that the more powerful groups, such as, say if you have a landlord, and they're more powerful than the renter. Now they gain more and more power as they get more money every year from the renter, and the renter loses more power. And that's the idea, that the powerless become less powerful, and the powerful become more powerful. I know that some social conflict theorists might say that Obamacare actually helps the powerless, but as I'm going to explain, I don't believe that at all. And when I look at a different way, that it's more that this theory goes into Obamacare as in the government being the powerful exploiting, the less powerful are exploited and remain powerless. Social conflict theory in Obamacare. Government is a powerful entity. I mean, they regulate everything. If you don't claim something on your taxes, the IRS comes after you. If you burn a tire, the EPA will come after you. I mean, there's so many different ways that they control every part, whether you want to have a business or anything, how you want to raise your children. Government has their hands in everything. They're a powerful entity. There is not one corporation that is more powerful than our government at this point in time. There's not any corporation that goes after the government is going to pretty much be fined in some way, and it just happens. Those with disabilities have been forced to spend more money or lose health care due to Obamacare. So how I've looked at it is in the view of disabled, okay? The disabled is what I'm considering the powerless. With the induction of Obamacare, Obamacare is empowering the government to get more money, and the disabled are becoming more powerless. I know a lot of people, from what they've read and thought, that a lot of the disabled that this law should be helping them. But in all reality, when you start to speak and start to read into it, it's very much the opposite. Companies with Christian values have been forced to choose between faith and government's power over them. That's also another example of the more power, those with less power, the church, those companies that have Christian values are losing more power as the government gains it and uses that against them. Obamacare and the disabled. Okay. So many families with insurance have had increased premiums due to Obamacare. This is due to the increased cost for the insurance companies. Like I said earlier, if you're required by the Obamacare law to cover more people that are more sick and cover more issues like you normally wouldn't cover, everyone's premiums go up. It's just like homeowner insurance, that if there's a big tornado and a lot of natural issues and a lot of people are hurt all over the world, then that insurance company's rates go up all over. It's not just the area that was hurt. They may go up more, but everyone's actually affected. So there was a couple of actual examples that I found. One family who hadn't had any increases over so many years in their own insurance, in just the 1 year, they had a $200 increase, and they were told it's because of Obamacare and their requirement to pay other things. Daverts. This is a family that has 2 children with disabilities, and their insurance was actually canceled. Although it was providing their needs for their children, it was canceled because it was not compliant with all of Obamacare laws. So they had to go find new insurance. Well, when they went to find their new insurance, their out-of-pocket was $10,000, whereas before it was $2,500. So now they're paying almost $8,000 more a year for their twins. This is a family with disabled children. They're becoming more powerless. They're losing their power, and power through money. So, another thing that happened is, like I said earlier about taxes being increased through Obamacare. A lot of people don't think so, but when you start looking and doing your actual individual taxes, flex spending accounts, they are very popular for families with disabilities. It allows them to actually not be taxed on these accounts and to be able to provide care for their children. Well, there was no cap before. Families could put lots of money in there and be able to pay for therapies and special schooling. Well, now Obamacare has capped that amount to $2,500. So every penny over that is now taxable, and that's to pay $13 billion to allow that amount of money to be taxable. So if you have an extremely sick child, extremely disabled child, who once you were able to put $10,000 into flex spending and not have it be taxable, now all that except for $2,500 is now. So your power is being taken away. Your child's needs are being ignored. They're being hurt. Many parents with disabled children rely on this. So, increased out-of-pocket and co-pays. So there's increased co-pays. I apologize, my child's in the next room. The babysitter's here with us, so he's going to join us here in a second. Hi, honey. Can you go watch Paw Patrol? Okay, well, can you go watch TV for a minute? Yep. Okay, thank you. Okay, so increased out-of-pocket and co-pays. So, a lot of those with disabilities, since they're the ones going to the doctors the most, they're out-of-pocket. This is, the typical American isn't as much worried about this. They're out-of-pocket and co-pays because it's not affecting them as much as someone with disabilities that's going constantly to therapies, to the doctor. Well, co-pays are being increased, and the cost of medicine is being increased, and that is huge portion of that's due to Obamacare.